Is there anybody else that wanted to record this session? No? Okay. So let's start with share screen. Great.
John Anthony record.
Now, Michael, I've still got you listed as co-host. Can you keep an eye on the doorbell for people that come in for me?
Yeah, I will. John, you said you wanted to record, right?
Yes, please.
Where are you, John? You're somewhere in there. All right, so what we're going to be looking at this week is carrying on with the series of modules. We're going to be looking at building choreography of what's called variant movements. Variant movements is a term that is coined a lot of the time. It's called extended applications or various other concepts of extended applications. I like the term variant movements because it's just a variation of the normal. And I'm going to go into a bit of detail of what we're talking about with that. Okay. It's important to know that many callers will disagree with what I'm going to present today. How I look at things, this is my opinion, and other callers will have a different opinion, and that's good that we all do have different opinions because that's how we learn and grow from each other. But the question is, what is classed as variant choreography? Is it extended choreography? Is it dance by definition? Is it all position dancing? Well, it is all of those and none of those specifically. I look at it in the forms of what they actually are. There's what's called the standard application. That's the normal way of doing things. Boy on the left, girl on the right. Very danceable, very easy, very straightforward. And there is a standard applications program and a standard applications booklet that's put out by Color Lab, which is the way these movements are normally done. Then there's extended applications, which are half sashayed, same-sex work, left-handed stuff. It's danceable, it's successful, and it usually has maybe a prompt or two, but it doesn't require extensive walkthroughs or any of that other kind of stuff. Then we get into the hyper-extended applications, which are slightly different and usually done from unusual formations. At the plus level, crossfire from line facing out would be an example of that. And there are a number of different examples. These usually get walked through. They don't need to be walked through very often, and they're usually successful after the initial walkthrough. Then there's what you call the interrupted applications, and that is do your part of or on the fifth hand or finish with a gimmicky type thing. You know, centers part, load the boat, or from here, outside's 8 chain 4 while the center's square through 3, or center's 8 chain 4 while the other's square through 3, you know, however you got these kinds of things. And they will work, but they usually take a walkthrough. There's a bit of a gimmick to it, or you need a lot of practice. And then there's the nightmare. You know, that's where you've got number 1 man do this, while number 4 lady with the adjacent phantom and your inverted diamond do all this, and everybody diagonally run, etc., 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 which makes no sense, gibberish. And although it may be technically correct when you push the dancers through with some kind of creative explanation, the dancers, even when they get it, don't really enjoy it unless they're up in that level that they want that choreographic jigsaw puzzle in their mind. But to me, that's not dancing. There is a place for all of this type of choreography in square dancing. Don't get me wrong, it's there and it's available for everybody. But the dancers are generally going to tell you what they want with their mouths, with their hands, or with their feet. Remember, give the dancers what they want, but always make sure that they succeed. You want them to feel like they've achieved and maybe even worked hard, but in reality, they didn't have to. They succeeded having fun and enjoying themselves because, after all, it is all about them. It's not all about the caller. Whoever that is that's in the background, you may want to mute yourself, please. Okay. In my opinion, and again, my opinion only, in most cases today, it seems that what is being classed as variant choreography or extended application has become the movement being used in the way that it was originally written and the way it's supposed to be. People are calling the extended applications what used to be absolutely normal, smooth, simple dancing. In other words, anything more than the simple boy on the left, girl on the right standard position is called a variant. It's called an extended application. It's called, ooh, I don't want to touch that kind of stuff. That's not the way the movements were designed. That's not the way they were planned to be used. And as a caller with a little bit of flexibility and variety without abuse or without expanding or chopping the definitions to the point where they're no longer recognizable, using the choreography well is very, very good. We had a bit of a discussion earlier about wheel around and reverse wheel around. These days, it's often put to us as variant choreography is using the call to its potential. Oh, that standard now seems to become a variant movement is really anything that somebody hasn't written choreography for or hasn't written a singing call for. And that becomes the difficult stuff. Nobody's taken the time to write a singing call, so I can't use it. I'll just teach something off the next program. The problem is this has become a prevailing tendency of many callers thinking. They tend to think, I'm just not going to use it. I'll stick with the boy on the left, girl on the right, one way only, use of the movement, and I'll rush them through to the next level and give them a challenge by throwing more stuff at them. And for some reason, many callers think that their ability to get dancers dancing as many movements as fast as they can equates to them being better dancers. They feel like the dancers like the challenge, and the more movements, the more better the dancers feel about themselves because they can claim to be mainstream dancers in 12 weeks or plus dancers in 20 weeks. That's not true. The reality is this prevalence is based on caller laziness and not doing the work, because many callers are about the caller and not the dancer. And that's what the mindset has to change in. Being a higher level doesn't make anyone a better dancer or a better caller. Newsflash, if you stop calling them levels as if it was a badge of achievement or a badge of honor and started calling them programs, meaning an administrative reference list of movements so that everybody knows what's there, we'd be a lot better off today. Instead, what we have is a lot of poor dancers getting to the higher levels faster, not because they're good or because it's more fun. It's because it just takes them a lot longer to get bored because of a lazy caller. And I know that's probably controversial and I'll get a lot of flack for that, but as I said, it is a journey worth taking, and that is my opinion. Okay. Now, I openly admit that I happily stalk, talk, collaborate, express, and blatantly, openly steal choreographic ideas from other callers. When writing this article, I saw a post regarding building choreography using modules and sight calling. In general terms, going through it, it looked like a book or one of those magazines, Calling and Dancing for Dummies. Now, I thought about that, and that For Dummies reference is not an insult. The For Dummies books are designed to take something that's relatively complex, such as construction, plumbing, languages, whatever, and putting it into simpler terms for anybody to understand. What it does, it breaks down the goal into parts so that when it's all put together, you understand what the book is about, what the topic is about, and you're able to do what that whole thing you just read is all about. They're excellent reference tools for anyone getting started, and they're just like the basic tools in your modular toolkit. So why not do the same with square dancing? I have no idea. But why, with so much material available, do we still rush to get there first as if it's some kind of badge of honor? It is the biggest mistake we make. Well, the reason for that, I think, is a division in the philosophy. The point of concern from that article, very simply put, was wrapped up with one caller saying, it's best to teach dancers the basics quickly and get them dancing and build on what they know. Wind in the face on night one, pattern singing calls on night one, dancing in squares on night one. I totally agree with all of that. However, it then went on to say, for that reason, that's what caught me, there's no need to teach things like left square through or reverse flutterwheel or split circulate or recycle from left-hand waves or with girls leading, because nobody really uses that except at workshops or higher levels. Let them dance and they can learn all that stuff later at higher levels when it's needed. I disagree with that in principle, and I'll explain why in a bit. I do agree, let them dance. And as a caller, if you're doing your job as a caller and a teacher, they will be learning and they will be dancing. If you teach them properly, you only have to teach them once. If you teach them improperly, you have to unteach it, first you have to teach it, then you have to unteach it, then you have to reteach it with differences, then you have to unlearn the habits that you taught the first place, then you've got to relearn new habits, and then you've got to reteach the whole thing again. Now, I thought about that process, and I thought, well, the best way to figure it out is to pick a movement, look at the choreography for that particular movement. For the dancers, I cannot understand why dancers would like to learn, 0 with a whole bunch of stuff plus 1 with a whole bunch of stuff is 4 divided by 4 instead of 1 plus 1 equals 2 or 0 plus 1 equals 1. It makes no sense to me. They've got nothing to build on. So this is a true story, and this is a background to where we're at. As a new club caller or a newer caller, many callers are often asked by their mentors or at a nearby club to do a guest tip scenario. And the basis of this story is from a caller that was asked to do one of those type of scenarios. With some follow-up, I found out this particular caller was encouraged to follow the modular and isolated site combination. So new caller learning to call with modules and branching into isolated site. The caller understood the relative basic formation management and movements. He was teaching a new class and was told at a pretty big dance by a very good caller, told him, don't worry about all the left hand and reverse stuff because new dancers won't dance that here anyway until after graduation. Just get them into the plus clubs to have fun. They can learn that at workshops or when they take advanced. That's a direct quote from what I was given. Now, this was an experienced caller talking to a new caller who is teaching his own club and teaching new dancers, saying, don't worry about teaching them left and reverse. They're not going to do that anywhere around here until after graduation. Just get them into the plus clubs and they can learn all that other stuff once they take advanced. That is a shame. Unfortunately, that is too common in a lot of places. So why is that important? Well, it works out to simple mathematics. When you have a movement with an extended variation of that movement, such as reverse flutter wheel or left square through, or any variation such as a recycle from a left-hand wave, you've got to use that movement with the original movements, but not in exclusion of the original movement. In other words, you teach them the basics, you teach them the foundations, then eventually you'll get to the extended application, but you've got to use them all. You don't just pull one out, do it for a night, and then put it away and you never see it for 3 years. Variants may be presented later on in the teaching order. I'm not saying you have to teach it when you teach the movement, but they are part of the movement, and more importantly, they're part of the listed program. For example, a recycle itself is not a right-hand movement, it's not a left-hand movement, nor is it a right-hand wave movement, nor is it a left-hand wave movement, nor is it a boy movement or a girl movement. It's an ends and centers movement, regardless of the type of wave it is. The definition for recycle doesn't change, and the body flow, timing, etc., it doesn't change, only in relative direction to travel and flow. That's true at even higher levels when things like relative starting formations, where the move is allowed to be called from different types of setups, does change. Recycle at advanced is a completely different movement than recycle at basic and mainstream. But unless you have that foundation, you're going to have trouble with the movements when you start learning the rest of them. Now, if you understood that, then you'll understand why teaching a movement properly with all the extended application or variants appropriate to that level that they're dancing is important to both callers and dancers. Recycle is one of the perfect examples of this. At mainstream, it's an ocean wave only movement with one definition that covers all the positions of an ocean wave, including right-handed, left-handed, same-sex, half sachet, or standard position waves. I'm sure we've all heard I was taught recycle as girls U-turn back wheel and deal, or boys on the end do this, or this. If you want to dance that way, there's 64 variants of recycle that you're going to teach, because that's how many different ways you can set up a recycle with 8 dancers. Or you can teach ends do this, centers do that, teach it once, it covers them all. That's the difference. You're not going to do it all at one night, but if you teach it and use it, the dancers will get it very quickly. Recycle is restricted to waves at mainstream for that very reason. It can be learned properly and it can be learned apositionally. This is why variants such as facing couples recycles are taught at higher levels or higher programs. They're higher program variants, not to be taught at basic and mainstream, but are designed to build on the foundations that dancers already have. And if we don't build those foundations early, then the dancers have nothing to build on. The rush to plus has become, in too many areas, the rush back to basic at a higher level. If the dancers don't have a foundation, then the mainstream graduates move on to plus. The plus dancers then move on, become teaching to teach reverse Flutterwheel and recycle, left square through, same-sex slide through, and then the caller says, oh, wait, maybe that's too hard. I know, we'll just relay the deucey and load the boat and leave that difficult basic and mainstream until they take advanced. Wrong move, guys. You're not doing your dancers any favors. So what I'm saying is use your material, use it wisely and use it properly with variety. You're never going to throw everything at them at once. If you did, you're a fool. But you are going to introduce that to them so that they can dance successfully and properly and build on what they know. By using all the material appropriate to the level, you build not only your ability to set up and differentiate between a family of movements, but you also begin to develop the use of variations of those movements in conjunction with the rest of the program. You graduate good, solid dancers that are not in a rush to get away from the boring, plain vanilla of a lazy caller. You also reinvent and reinforce the differences, heighten dancer formation and position awareness, and increase their ability to dance and adapt quickly for the dancers. So when something new is called, they don't panic. They just automatically react to it. Oops. What happened there? Further, there's been the added advantage of non-exclusion. This is achieved by using the process of building and using rather than teaching and forgetting, which is very, very common today. Too often, variant or extended movements are treated like the black sheep uncle of the family. He comes out to the big family meeting or the big family barbecue, and he's tolerated sparingly because he's such a difficult person. The norm for variant movements, unfortunately, seems to be, let's dig it out of the archive for an occasional tick the box. Yeah, I taught that movement from that location, and then put it back in the archives. For many callers, they just find it easier to rush to the next program and claim to be a higher level caller with higher level dancers. But unfortunately, what they're doing is forcing the dancers to relearn, unlearn bad habits, relearn the movements properly, and then they have to teach all the ones that were skipped in order to get them up to that next level as fast as they could. So I use the comparison of a house. If we picture square dancers as a house, we look at a house is more than just walls and a roof, okay? But you can put up walls and a roof and you can have shelter, but can you live in it? Yes, but you got no heat, you got no electricity, you got no plumbing, you got a few visitors because nobody wants to come over there. But you do that for a while, then you tear it all down and you rebuild the walls so that you can insulate them for the winter. And there you're warm. Oh, but then you tear it all down again because now you got to put in the electricity and the plumbing. And then you got to rip up the foundation because you got to put the sewer in line in. And then you got to tear it down, and then you got to build it up again. Now you got plumbing, you got sewer, you got walls, you got electricity. You feel you can invite the neighbors over, but there's rules. Oh, don't touch anything because we've only just got this done. You know, you can look at it, it looks nice, we got the house the way we want it, look, but don't touch. Now that sounds like absolute stupidity. It's ludicrous. And what you do is you say, hey, I've got a nice house. I'm going to encourage you to build a house just like mine. Nobody would do that with anything except square dancers because that is what we do to our dancers. Does that sound like the new graduate dancer that we push through the program being invited to the big dance, only to be pushed down to the basic hall, if there is one, because the mainstream caller is calling things like spin the tops and recycles from left-hand waves or zoom from a completed double pass-through. You know, or something, and they get frustrated because they can't dance the program that they're told they can dance. The builder, or in this case, the caller, if it spent a little more time and effort building everything properly and completely, step by step, and ensuring that all the bits and pieces are in place, it might have taken a little bit longer to finish the product. It takes a lot less time and effort and a lot less money in the long term, however, to have something that's completely usable with no more repair required and just the enjoyment of living in it and raising a family and being part of an entire community. And you know what? If you get a bunch of dancers that maybe take a little bit of time and you take the time with them and they enjoy it and they come out with a finished product, they're going to want to stick around and enjoy that product. You know, you can go into a sewing room as often as a kitchen, but you're going to use some rooms more than others. Those are your foundations, but all the other nice things are nice to have. Build it correctly the first time, you've got a good house. Build them correctly the first time, you've got dancers that want to stay. Okay, so let's get back to the dance now. The why and the how. Keep that analogy of building a house in your mind when we talk about focusing on teaching movement focus. What we're going to do is we're going to apply the same logic, and you achieve better and more responsive dancers with the ability to adapt to something quickly, as well as a more flexible collar with the material that that collar is going to present. As the original question was posed from a new collar and a class, that collar was teaching a basic class, and because that collar uses both module and sight, I took the exact same approach. Okay, and that approach is to understand the definition and movements of what the movement does that you want to focus on. You identify what you want to achieve. You use the movement in isolated sight if you're comfortable with that. That's just two couple dancing to explore possibilities. You prepare some simple modules that are going to use that movement that you want to focus on. I suggest corner box to corner box, partner line to partner line, 2 conversions and 2 resolutions, 1 from each the corner box and partner line. That's just a start. After a while, you'll develop more and more and more, but start small and build on it. I also say 2 separate singing call figures that highlight that extended application or that variant movement that you want to highlight. One preferably within the original. Okay, so what I mean by that is you want to have one, if I'm doing a variation, you want to have a singing call that's got that variant movement on it. If I'm doing a reverse flutter wheel with a boy girl and that's what I want to focus on, I want that in my singing call. I don't just want a normal flutter wheel, but I want to have a second singing call that's got a very simple flutter wheel or maybe a flutter wheel and a reverse flutter wheel, so that if I do have to rein it back, I've got something the dancers can do and succeed with. So does this process look familiar? It should, because this is the same process we started with learning to call with our foundation modules. It's the exact same process we learned when we started looking at modules and preparing for the first tip. And it's the exact same process that we're using now. All we're doing is just taking it to the next step and focusing on a specific movement. Okay. So to get it all prepared, parts 1 and 3, what do you want to achieve? Using the movement with isolated sight and preparing some modules, those are easy to achieve. You've already done it a number of times. This is the basic ability to move dancers around. And if you haven't acquired it, then you need to do steps 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Practice, practice, practice. And when you think you're ready, practice some more. It's during the isolated sight portion of the calling that you'll use the standard flutter wheels and the reverse flutter wheels together. If you're not comfortable with doing isolated sight, prepare modules and stay away from isolated sight until you're ready. You are your own best judge of that. Don't force yourself and don't let anybody force you to do something you're not comfortable with. Okay? I recommend starting with the isolated sight or the 2-couple calling method, but it's your choice. Part 4 is the one we're going to talk about. Okay? This is the written aspect or the practical application of preparing modules. I personally encourage you to have a few things written down for a quick reference on the table so that you've got it prepared, it's there, you can refresh at a glance. I don't like holding cue cards in front of my face. I don't like holding a sheet of paper in front of my face when I'm calling and reading on, but I still have a reference sheet that I can quickly glance over to the side. So just a quick reminder on your reference sheets or your index cards or whatever you use, you want to make sure that you print it out large enough that you can read it from a distance. For me, I like to have 1 call per line. I don't like to have a string of text out there. I don't like using shorthand, but if you like it, if it works for you, that's great. And it's much, much easier to follow at a glance that way rather than following a string of calls. The movement that you choose is variant choreography. For example, in this one, we're going to use reverse flutter wheel. The limitation on the variant is the fact that the level being taught is basic. So up here, you notice I've got basics. So I can't use anything above the basic program. The idea was to teach and build on the flutter wheel that they've already learned with a limited highlight run on reverse flutter wheel and maybe some boy-girl flutter wheels. The principle for doing this is exactly the same as what we've done. All we're doing is we're just taking a different movement. It's just like teaching a new movement, but building on what they know. Okay, so unless you have a singing call already, or you've got some singing calls that have the variation that you want to use, do your modules first. I highly recommend that. In your preparation, you want to build some simple modules. So using the 4-step process designed above, I first put the dancers in a known formation. I can do this with my checkers. And I limit it to corner, box, and partner line to start. Then I work out a couple of quick modules, and there's more that I can do, but let's keep it simple, okay? So let's just change this to that. Now, is Taminations up on your screen, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we want to use our sequences. So we come up with a couple of modules. So let's reset this. Oops. Okay, so we get to a corner box. I'm just using pair off as an example to get there. So we're going to do a corner box module. Oops, let's slow that down a bit here. So the module we came up with is touch a quarter, split circulate, boys run, reverse flutter wheel, and star through. So touch a quarter, split circulate, boys run. Yep, the flow's there, reverse flutter wheel that picks them up going forward, and we do a star through, we're back into our corner box. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're not going to just do one module. We're going to do 2, maybe even 3 modules for each of these. And the reason I say that, hang on a second. The reason I say that is, one, it's good practice for you. You'll learn a lot of things about that. But also when you go through, you'll find ones that work better than others, ones that you don't like, and you pick the best ones out of the pile. So reverse flutter wheel, yes, that flows. Veer to the right, okay, yeah. A couple circulate, bend the line, right and left through, and a star through. Okay, now I've noted on this one, oh, wait a minute. I had the sides on the outside here. I've got the heads on the outside here. I make a note, that's an invert and rotate module. So I make that little note. And I design a number of modules like this. So I'll just do a couple of quick ones here. All of these modules and all this choreography will be in the notes, by the way. So if I look at a partner line, I do exactly the same thing. Okay, so my line is set up a half sachet, pass through, partner trade, flutter wheel. I've got the boys going in. Yes, that's my variation, flutter wheel. I've got a reverse flutter wheel. Yes, I've got the girls going in. Those are my variations. I'm in a line, box the mat, and the right and left through. I look at that and I go, wait a minute, after that reverse flutter wheel, I was already in a partner line. I didn't really need that box the mat right and left through. I could move that up to the front and set that box the mat right and left through to set up the half sachet. I can fiddle with those and adapt them very quickly. Where are we here? And we need a couple of resolutions as well. So let's just pick a resolution here. Here's one. So we'll do this as a corner box resolution. Okay. So what's it look like? Heads pair off, yeah. Touch a quarter. Centers circulate, yes, that's working. Centers are going to run. Couples circulate. I'm bending the line. I need something for that hand. Yep, reverse flutter wheel will work fine. I've got a flutter wheel. It's a boy-girl flutter wheel. Yep, that works fine. Pass through, bend the line. Now you remember that module that I had earlier. If we go back to the screen. I didn't like this one. I made the note. I came back. The reason I didn't like that module is I can say end dancers give a left pull by to the partner, right and left grand, but that's really, really pushing the dancers. That's trying to get them to do something abstract, and that takes away from the focus that I want. So after going through a number of modules, I review them. I look at what I've got and I say, right, I like this one, I don't like that one. I find the ones that I like best, and because I'm keeping it simple, I select one of each for corner box to corner box, partner line to partner line, a conversion for each, and a resolution for each. And you remember each partner line and each corner box is a resolution. And with our 5 foundation modules, that's 165 3-module combinations that we can make with those modules without repeating ourselves, and that's only starting with the heads. The math is there, we've talked about that already. And you note here, I haven't done anything with a singing call yet. But what I have done is I'm going to put it all together. I just want you to look here. See that module I didn't like? Okay, I changed it. I put in one that works that I actually do like. That's why I do a number of modules, and I pick the ones that are good. I'm not even practicing yet. I'm just writing and finding out what works together. The trick to success with this is the process that you learned about preparing for a tip using your 5 foundation modules and just moving the dancers. What you did about using just modules to set up a pattern. What you learned about using modules and pulling the modules out of a singing call and learning how to put them into your pattern is exactly the same here. We're not doing anything at all that is different. Okay, the only thing that's happening here is the extended variation or the extended application of one movement, and that movement is the flutter wheel. Okay, you already know how to do the process. The only change would be in your singing call selection. So make sure it's one that's relatively simple to succeed at, just in case the dancers are having trouble. You want one with your variation, which you see what I have here, reverse flutter wheel, girls in, sweep a quarter more, half sachet with the boys in front. And then I've got a very simple one. And the reason I've done that is I look at my singing calls. And I actually picked 3 singing calls. Cancel, squared set, reset, paste. So heads do a right and left through. Same heads, flutter wheel and back away. Sides lead to the right, touch a quarter. Girls run around a boy, reverse flutter, that's the girls going in, and sweep a quarter more. Everybody do a half sachet, that works. Pass through, Alaman left, come back and promenade. Okay. I'm starting here in this right hand partner. Headman is in his home position. He's finished everything, and he's got 46 beats of music used. He's got an extra 2 beats. He's got 16 beats for the promenade. I'm not putting a swing or anything in there. That's my variation of choreography. That uses my flutter wheel, my reverse flutter wheel with boys going in, girls going in. It's nice and simple. It's what they've used in the pattern. I also have, excuse me, a backup. Okay, and my backup is head square through 4, swing through, boys trade, and boys run. Bend the line, right and left through, Flutterwheel, reverse flutter, and it goes right into the promenade. That reverse flutter, dancers take that much because the sequence is actually using it, but that takes the caller, or sorry, that takes, if you go right into the promenade, 48 beats right to number one man in his own position, 16 beat promenade to full promenade to home. Okay, so now I've got my reference sheets. What I do is I practice, and I practice, and I practice, and I practice. And as it was with the rest of the module choreographic presentation, I need to start with an opening sequence, and then I practice, and then I need to practice my modules, and I need to practice putting my modules together. Then I put my singing call on. I practice about a dozen times with both figures, and then I go back and practice the modules. And when I'm done, I practice some more. Now, here's where the process gets a little bit different. Okay. As with every other kind of module choreography we did, I need to have some kind of start that's going to wake up the dancers. And because I'm using a variation of choreography, I want to have something that uses my focus that the dancers can succeed at in an opener, in a nice, safe environment. Okay, so I might call something like Alaman left in the Alamo style, swing through and balance. Girls, run to the left. All four ladies chain, 3/4. All four ladies flutter wheel, pick up the boys, go with them, boys. Boys, reverse flutter wheel, pick up the girl, keep her, and promenade home. It's not difficult. It's easy choreography. They're not going to have any difficulty with it at all. But what it does is it says, I'm awake. I've got this. The dancers are dancing what I'm going to do. And what's happening here? Wow, he's doing something different. I better listen. So if I'm doing that, then we can also get the dancers warmed up, and I can get ready to start by going into my fixed point. In this case, we're going to use the corner box by using my movement again. Heads, flutter wheel, sweep a quarter more. So if I do that, where are we? Reset. So if I go and sweep 1/4, this is not my variation, but it's something that they already know and they're already familiar with. So I've used a flutter wheel, all four couples flutter wheel, all four couples reverse flutter wheel. Now I've used a standard flutter wheel. The dancers are awake and they should be tuning in that what I've got is a flutter wheel. And I use my practices, I use my modules, I use everything that I've done up to this point, and I do a practice. I get into a corner box, I call a corner box to a corner box module. And then I call a corner box to a partner line module and a partner line get out. And I get in and I start going again. The next time what I want to do is I want to say get into a corner box. And if you're comfortable with isolated sight, use isolated sight. If you're not, just stick with your modules. So let's just see what we got here. So this is a little bit of isolated sight. Star through, go forward and back, okay? Why did I do? Okay, because I'm doing a reverse flutter wheel after star through. We don't want to do that. Right and left through with a half sachet. Ooh, flutter wheel, that's got the boys going in. Yeah, they're coming in from behind and moving forward. That works. Reverse flutter wheel, it's a nice flow off of that. Back to the facing lines. Left flow, touch a quarter gives me a right hand flow. Boys run. I step to a wave and the center straight. There's the counter. Swing through. Boys are running to the right. A Ferris wheel. Oh, there's the rest of the square. I'm interacting well with them. Centers pass through. Now I want to get to a resolution. I can call an Alaman left from here, but I also notice that I've had a few different things in here. I can call an 8 chain 4 and put them on the other side. But let's just do that. 8 chain 4, 8 chain 4, 8 chain 4, because I want to resolve the square. And I've got a resolution from one of my modules. And if I, where was it? What was it? I think that resolution was touch a quarter, centers, trade, swing through, girls run. Notice they're running to the right, so the girls are doing the reverse flutter wheel. That's my variation. Reverse flutter wheel and sweep 1/4. I follow that with a left square through 3 to a right and left grand. And promenade home. I set that up intentionally to put them on the other side. I could have called that little get out right from there and called a right and left grand to end at home if they're going comfortably, but I'm giving myself a bit of a break. So just to recap, what we've done there is this. We've got in, we've done a module, a get in, we've used a couple modules. Now we've done a get into a corner box. We've done a little bit of isolated sight. We've decided that we can resolve the dancers. We've interacted with an 8-chain-4. We finished with a module that we already had prepared, and we went right to a right and left grand and a promenade, and the dancers are going, wow, we're getting this. But what's important is the two perspectives of what we're doing. We as callers look at things very different than dancers do. So a caller that has taken the time and prepared his modules and practice and practice and practice and getting up on the floor and presenting this and watching the dancers is looking at it saying, I called a prepared opener, well done. I called a get in using a flutter wheel to a corner box. Yep, that's my focus. I've called some free-flowing isolated sight using flutter wheel and reverse flutter wheel from different ways to make sure they could dance it. Yep, I did that. I called a memorized module, or I read a memorized module, get out to a right and left grand. For me, the process is short and simple. I can get in, I can free sight call, I can use a module, I can give the dancers a good mix of focus, and I can repeat this comfortably as many times as I need with 3 sequences and get over 150 different variations without even using isolated sight. All the hard work is done. The thing is, that's how callers will see it. Just remember though, how you see it is not always the way the dancers see it. That's why I put this up. There's 2 perspectives. There's your perspective as a caller, and you're telling the dancers to count the ends. Look, there's only 4 bricks, 1 end, 2 end, 3 end, 4 end. And the dancer's sitting here saying, he says there's 4, but I count 6. 1 end, 2 end, 3 end, 4 end, 5 end, 6 end. Okay. Always remember this. The first rule of calling is that it's about the dancers, not about you. You always have to consider how they're going to think about it, because it's much more important how they think about it than it is how you think about it. So this is what you've looked at and saying, I called a get in that was prepared. I called a module that was prepared. I did a couple modules to get out. They're dancing successfully. I called a get into a corner box. I called a little isolated sight. I called a get into a right and left grand. Fantastic. The dancers are doing good. The dancers are thinking, okay, the music's gone down. Hey, that's a nice piece of music. It's bouncy. It's not overly done. I can relate to this. It's got a good beat. I can flow. Alaman left in the Alamo style. Oh, what's that mean? Yeah, okay, there's always a couple of these things. It's usually a swing through coming next. Swing through 2x2, swing through 2x2, and a right and left grand or whatever. Oh, swing through, return through. Oh, no. What happens? Girls run left. What? Oh, I wasn't expecting that. That wasn't too hard though. And then it's followed by all 4 ladies chain. Oh yeah, caller's fixing it. He wasn't supposed to do that there. All 4 ladies flutter wheel. Oh, wait a minute, that's different. Yeah, I remember this. Okay. All 4 boys flutter wheel, keeper, and promenade. Okay. That was simple. It was a bit different, but that kind of woke me up. That turned my ears on. I'm listening now. Wonder what he's going to do with this. That's what the dancers are thinking. You're thinking, I wrote a prepared opener. I know it works. I called it. It's time. That's not what they're thinking. Then you go into your first figure. You call heads flutter wheel, sweep a quarter, heads flutter wheel, sweep a quarter more. Pass through, slide through, go forward and back. I've got the wrong, oh yeah, there it is. Forward and back. Okay. That's fine, pretty standard, straightforward. Then you call a reverse flutter wheel. The dancer thinks, okay, that's different, not bad, but not difficult. a right and left through with a half sachet. Okay, the boy's sliding behind the girl and coming forward right into that flutter wheel. The dancer's saying, okay, that's backwards. It's fun. I'm dancing the girl's part, the boy thinks. The girl thinks, oh, I'm dancing the boy's part. Okay. Then it's followed with girl's lead, reverse flutter wheel. And it says, oh, wait a minute. She's dancing the boy's part, or is it the left part or the right part? Am I dancing the left side? Am I dancing the right? Am I dancing as a boy or a girl? Okay, I can still do this. This is fun, but don't push me on this one. Well, you've got that. You're into a standard formation, facing lines, touch a quarter, boys run, make an ocean wave. Yep, pretty standard. Centers trade, swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel. There's the rest of the square. Oh, I knew they were in there somewhere. I'm getting pretty good at this stuff. Pass through, touch a quarter, centers trade, swing through. Good stuff. Everything up right through there is standard. Girls run, reverse flutter wheel. Dancer thinks, I knew there'd be another one of those. I was ready this time. Ha 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 ha. That caller can't fool me. Sweep a quarter more, left square through three. And you suddenly, what, left square? Wait a minute. What's the left square through? And it's right into a right and left grand. They're doing it before they even realize it. It's natural flow. There's the right hand lady. And you're thinking, where did that come from? I love it. I'm getting pretty good at this hard stuff. Bring it on. Okay. So you've got to keep those perspectives in mind as you progress through your calling. As the tip progresses, the caller's thinking in the progress, the sequence, the modules, because he's got them prepared or she's got them prepared in practice. And she's watching the dancers succeed as they get through the choreography. They're going, get in, module, get out, dancer success, great. Get in, conversion, get out, dancer success, great. Get in, module, conversion, convert back, get out, dancer success, great. Get in, half a chicken plucker, a module, half a chicken plucker, get out, dancer success, great. I'm keeping it short, I'm keeping it focused, I'm keeping it simple. The dancer's succeeding, great. The dancer's also thinking at this point, he's doing left hand and right hand stuff. I have to listen a little bit closer, but I can meet this challenge. That caller's not going to beat me. This is fun. Bring it on. You haven't done anything really difficult. You've just introduced one extended application. All the rest of that stuff is pretty normal dancing. Now you repeat that process 4 or 5 times, and you've suddenly got 5 minutes of patter call done. And the beauty of it is the process is exactly the same. If you choose a focus for the theme or the tip, you've already done that. You select or write 2 singing calls that reflect your theme, you've already done that before. You note your fixed points in your singing calls. You've already done that before. You create some modules that you can base your focus movement. For me, the ideal number of modules is 6. 7 if you include an opener, because that's 6 modules, one of each of those modules, and your 5 foundation modules is 156 variations. You got so much movement there that you don't need to have any more. And that's without repeating, and that's without changing heads leading. Okay, you make sure they work, and then you practice, and you do more practice, and you practice mixing and matching, and you keep on going and practice more. Eventually you're ready, and it comes the night you're ready to perform. Now, I spoke briefly on the singing call, and although we've shown the singing calls already that we're going to use, I just want to go back for a bit. You have to remember that your singing call must reflect the piece of choreography that you want to focus on, in this case, the extended variation of Flutterwheel. It's got to be used in your singing call. It's no good to tie the tips together if you're focusing on Flutterwheel and the only thing that you call is a spin the top in your singing call, and there's not even a hint of a Flutterwheel. It doesn't work. Tie it all together. I always say prepare 3, which I have here, an easy one, a relatively easy one, and one that was a little more difficult. The reason, and then I picked 2 of them. This is the one I want to use at the bottom, because it's got the girls in, boys in, the reverse flutter wheel and the normal flutter wheel. But I also want this nice easy one just in case I have to rein it back. And by doing that, I know that if I do have a problem, I can always use a flutter wheel in my singing call, even though it's not one of those fancy ones that I did in my patter call. Just in case. It's always a just in case. And whenever I'm doing variant choreography, I like to only use one singing call figure. But that's just me. Okay, that's the extended or the variant process from start to finish. Remember, the process is exactly the same as what you've already learned. It's exactly the same as what you've already done. The only difference is being the difficulty level of the extended application. I can't stress it's vitally important that your singing call reflect your theme, but also that you ensure that you have appropriate levels so the dancers can always succeed. What they'll remember is success. Success they remember as fun. They won't remember the choreography. They're not going to remember the pattern music. They might remember the singing call, but what they will remember is the feeling of success. That feel that you get of, wow, that was tough, but I got that. I enjoyed that. If you fail, you break them down or you work them to death, that's failure, and that is never forgotten. So if you fail to prepare, you have prepared to fail. What the dancers remember is what was. It wasn't fun. It wasn't great. It wasn't flowing. I don't want to do that again. It's not the music. It's not the choreography that they're going to remember if it fails. It's you. Okay? You may not always want to introduce your variant choreography when teaching the movement the first time, and nor should you. Sometimes it's better not to. However, when you eventually do add the variants and the extended applications to the mix, make sure you keep using them as frequently as you use the standard positions and setups. You want your dancers to be comfortable. You want to reflect interesting choreography so that the dancers profit. You want them to be more confident. You want them to reinforce active listening. You want them to be better dancers for the process. They're also going to want to stay, dance, and have fun because every night is something new and different to them. Yeah, it may not be new and different to you. You're just thinking, okay, this is just an extended application of this. It's the same old choreography. They don't see it that way. And you've got to remember the primary rule. It's all about the dancers. It's never about the caller. Any questions? Anybody still there? Wow.
There are no questions in chat, so.
Right. Well, that is the discussion on, or the presentation on using extended variations and introducing extended variations into your choreography. As I said, the process is exactly the same. It's still modular calling. If you are comfortable with isolated sight, by all means, use it. If you're not comfortable, you don't have to do it until you're ready. Don't let anybody push you. All the choreography and everything else is going to be, it is all available in the handouts, in the handout that goes with this session, as is the PowerPoint slides. And I'm just looking to try and post them up there now. So the floor is open. If anybody has any questions, by all means, throw them out there. Couldn't have been that good.
Just a question on terminology.
Yeah.
I was trying to follow the Alamo style girls run, four ladies chain.
Yeah.
And it appears to me that it's a normal setup of boy, girl around the circle. But you then call four ladies Flutterwheel. Can you explain that one to me? Because
okay, so Alaman left in the Alamo style. That has the boys facing in, the girls facing out. Swing through, half right, half left. That has the boys in and the girls out. Girls run left, so they're going around their original partner. Sorry, no, they're going around the left-hand dancer. And then four ladies chain 3/4. That gets them back to their original partner with a courtesy turn, followed by a four ladies flutter wheel, picking up the boy, followed by a four boys reverse flutter wheel, picking up their original partner and taking them home.
you want everybody flutter, not just the girls.
Yeah, if I say all four ladies flutter wheel, I would preface that and prompt that through if they've never done it before with all four ladies in flutter wheel. Pick up the opposite boy, take him back with you. All four boys, reverse flutter wheel. Pick up the opposite girl, take them home with you, or pick up your original partner. Yes.
Why don't you contaminate that for us, Mel?
Sorry? I can't contaminate that one, unfortunately.
Mel, I have a question.
Yes.
I know you say all four ladies flutter wheel, so the boys just stand there and don't move.
Now, when you say all four ladies flutter wheel, you're going to.
I'm just teasing because it's flutter wheel.
That's why I stopped, because I just realized that after the fact. You got me.
Oh.
Only because we get caught up in using terms like that when they're not accurate. And for me, I try to be more accurate when I'm talking to my dancers.
We have to present the ideas with accurate terminology. We have to use words that reflect the exact what we expect the dancers to do. All four ladies Flutterwheel means all four ladies doing the Flutterwheel. It has no relationship to the men. Can't say that.
Yeah, no, it's lead Flutterwheel. I mean, that's that.
Now, actually, you don't.
Ladies
You
lead
don't need to
Flutterwheel,
do that. But
And then they want to do Dixie style. So it's
what you can do is, and like I said, with anything that you want, and I think it was Daryl. I don't know if Daryl's with us, but Daryl made an excellent point in Dawn's presentation this morning. He said, whatever you're calling, you want to make sure that the dancer succeeds. So if you call something, there's nothing wrong with giving that little helper word to make sure that they succeed. If you say square through, you don't have to say four hands, but if you say four hands, you're going to tell the dancers that's what you want to do. If you're going to say all four ladies flutter wheel, you can say girls in, or all four ladies lead with a flutter wheel, pick up the opposite boy and bring him back. You can prompt them through it the first time and then wean them off. Whatever helper words you use, once you've used the command properly, how you prompt them through is what the words you use to ensure that they get success. And you can wean that off later.
I'm confused. I thought it was an all 8 flutter wheel. Wouldn't it be all 8 flutter wheel? Ladies go.
No, it would be all four ladies chain, all four ladies flutter wheel.
No, not correct. When you say all four ladies flutter wheel, you are only giving the clue to the ladies. In a flutter wheel, it's a lady and a man action.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You say all four ladies lead with the flutter. That's what
we're all
Terry.
We're all trying to draw the distinction between a 2-couple call and a 4-couple call, and so you do need somehow to alert the dancers they're going to do it as a 4-couple call. But you're only arguing about what words you'll use, and I agree that just saying ladies might be like saying scoot back boys. It's the same category of, you're using the wrong leadings to transfer between 2-couple to 4-couple. And so it's a matter of...
Right, and what I'm thinking is, as far as leading up to that, I would start from a static square with head ladies flutter wheel and side ladies flutter wheel and all four ladies chain across, or something like that, to get them in that idea of that's what they're doing in the middle. So
Absolutely, building it up to that. And yes, you are correct. The terminology, I have used that many times. I've never had any difficulty with it. My dancers never had any difficulty with it. And I have used head ladies chain, side ladies chain, four ladies chain, head flutter wheel, side flutter wheel, all four couples flutter wheel, or all four ladies lead flutter wheel. Boys lead.
Don't we happily say all four ladies chain across, even though the boys have something to do?
That's getting moved. How do I mute the audio but stay in Zoom? The mute button is on the bottom left-hand screen of your screen, Mike. That little microphone. And sorry, now you asked a question, Julian. I don't think I quite caught that.
you can also hit the space bar if you're on a laptop to unmute.
Now he wanted to know how to
Okay,
mute.
I was just saying, don't we happily say all four ladies chain across, even though there's something for the boys to do in that move?
Yeah, we do. But what Terry said and what Barry said are absolutely correct. When we're presenting something like this, we should actually be using the exact terminology that is correct. Even though it's intuitive for the dancers, it's like saying a Dixie style to an ocean wave. What happened there? Like saying Dixie style to an ocean wave and calling a pass. The dancers will intuitively do it, but it is wrong because it's not a pass through, because it's from a left-hand wave. So we shouldn't present it.
Maybe we should be saying all four couples, ladies lead, flutter wheel.
Yeah.
I had another question about that same sequence, the four ladies chain 3/4.
Yeah.
So, but they're not really in a squared set. So aren't they going to? I mean, you say you've done this many times and it works, but I would have guessed that the ladies would have a little trouble figuring out exactly what's 3/4 if they're not starting from a straight set.
I have never had that issue. I've never found that issue. I've done circle left, Alaman left your corner, star through California twirl, and gone into something like that. They can be slightly offset. I've never actually considered that. I've never found that problem with dancers. I've never had the dancers do that. If I call a 4 ladies chain and they're at slight angles, they know to go straight across. If I call 4 ladies chain 3/4, they know to go 3 men.
Right. Yeah, usually when you teach 4 ladies chain 3/4, you tell them to count 1, 2, 3, so they know where they're going.
I am trying to post the presentation and the PDFs, just in case everybody is wondering, but I keep getting private messages and it keeps defaulting to private message. So hang on just a second, please.
Okay, it came through on my chat.
Yeah, it's come through on about 8 people's chats because it sent me a private message. So the presentation itself should be loading right now. But I do want to stress, like I said, we all have calling habits. I have a number of calling habits which are bad calling habits. I'm the first one to admit them. But as Terry was pointing out, even though it was a bit tongue-in-cheek, I think it might have been absolutely correct.
Oh, definitely.
If you do say something like that, especially if you're presenting or giving something, because things tend to get taken very, very seriously, very straightforward. And especially when there's a language barrier, if it's said one way, even as a joke or because it's common practice, it doesn't always translate well. So you should use the right terminology all the time when you're presenting, and then put the clarifications after instead of the way I did it, which was this is what I do and clarify that. So thanks for that, and it's a good catch. Anyway, the floor is open. I see the PowerPoint presentation is now on there. You can download it out of the chat, or like anything else, if you want any one of these 5 sessions that we've done on modules, you can send me an email. I can send you the text and the PowerPoint presentations. And so the floor is open. We can look at some of this choreography and contaminations if you want. We can get somebody, put it up as a square. You can try picking a movement and building a module and walking through the process. Whatever you guys want to do, the floor is open.
Now, just early in your presentation, you were talking about the standard upper extended and then hyperextended. And you mentioned about crossfire from lines facing out, saying that was a hyperextended, I think you might have used.
That's an extended application.
Extended, okay.
Yeah.
No.
Now, I'm going to qualify that one though, Howard, because depending on where you are, crossfire from lines facing out will very, very rarely be seen. In an area where it's not seen, the dancers would take that as a hyperextended application. I know in Australia, and I know in Europe, crossfire from lines facing out is like having the letter Y on the end of a day. It's very common, but it's not used everywhere. But if we took crossfire from a 3-in-1 line to end in a funky T-bone type formation, well, that would be a very hyperextended formation.
Or from facing diamonds.
Or from facing diamonds. Yeah. And doing a crossfire from diamonds, well, that's just not allowed. That's improper.
Well, and on the lines facing out, the controversy is where you wind up. And so that's why a lot of people here in the States avoid it. But
anyway, it's a bit of a digression, but yeah, I use that as an example. But I try to stay away from the plus and the advanced movements in the presentation, which I should have done again, mainly because not everybody that's here dances or falls at that level. So if you do have a question on it, the crossfire would be just, never mind, we'll leave that out. Leave that out. Forget it.
I did have a question about that, though, about the crossfire. Yes, I do have a question. I do have a question about crossfire. As far as if you say the heads star through, and then spread out. So you got boy, boy, girl, girl line. You do a pass through, and then call crossfire from there. Wouldn't that end like in a ping pong circulate?
You're going to be in a double pass-through formation when you finish.
Quarter tag formation, I think.
Let's have a look at it and see what you got.
I think it's been redefined,
What's your setup?
the ending.
Head star through.
Hang on.
Spread.
Yeah.
Spread.
Spread.
Fred,
Pass through. Crossfire.
Okay, so you'd have the ends cross fold, the centers trade, and step
Correct.
forward. And with the way it is now defined, if you're stepping forward into somebody, you establish an ocean wave.
And then the outsides would be coupled, right?
Yep.
Just like that. Okay. Got it.
Okay. It used to be the centers will trade and step ahead, but there was no, depending on how far back you go, there was no defined ending position or ending formation. It was generally used from one formation. It was usually ending up in that wave or ending up in that column or ending up in, so that you had the hands joined. But once the definition was realized, it could be done from a number of different locations, wherever you had identified ends and centers. If you didn't break the rules, you could call crossfire. Then we got into the technical weird mumble phantomness with a diamond inverted circulate with a chihuahua under each arm. And that's where you get into the really hyper extended, I don't want to play anymore definitions. I use the term sometimes death by definition rather than dance by definition, because sometimes that's what it feels like.
So I have a question. So again, you're saying it crossfire from there would end in a quarter tag formation, and somebody said that the definition had been rewritten. Who said that? Was it Betsy or Chris?
I believe I said that the ending formation had been revised.
That's correct.
So has it been revised to the quarter tag formation?
I believe so.
Yeah, I just always solved that problem by having them step to a wave, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there were people who debated it.
I know, ad nauseum.
But no, I think there was only 3 callers in that room, Betsy, so there was only like 27 different opinions. Anyway, enough of the crossfire. The floor is open. Did anybody want
Thanks, Betsy.
I have a question.
Yes, Greg.
Yeah, so I haven't done much calling, but I have tried to call past the ocean from facing lines and sashayed couples. And it's always a disaster. So my question is, how do you work them up to that?
Well, you can start, there's a number of different ways. One of the things that you can do is pass through, face your partner, step to a wave. And do it as just get them used to that flow. It's no different than, and you can set up heads are right and left through, and a half sachet, pass through, head space, pass through. Everybody pass through, face your partner. Lines up to the middle and back. Get them into that flow of past the ocean, which is pass, face, step to a wave. The reason why a half sachet past the ocean became problematic is because it was taught for so long as a couple walk forward, girls left touch a quarter, boys hook on the far end. And
or hook in the middle.
Dancing habits. And then it's hook in the middle. It's not a hook in the middle. That's a styling comment that was put on, but it is pass through, face your partner, and step to a wave. So fundamentally, you'll also hear a lot of callers we call pass the ocean and roll for that very reason, because you've got that circular motion on the outside and you got that left touch a quarter on the inside. It's absolutely wrong. That's because a bad dancing habit has been allowed to occur for so long, it became a styling way of doing it, but it's corrupted the actual movement. And that again, that's
Yeah, I see. Nobody can roll because you're
right,
stepping.
nobody can roll.
Correct.
However, I'm going to say this, we have a roll after a recycle. We have a roll, and the reason is that's a dancing convention. And if we don't start correcting these mistakes and these issues now, they will become part of the normal dancing lexicon, and they can get approved because they will become conventions because that's the way everybody dances it. And that's a danger. So this is why, even going back further, if you're going to teach movements, teach them right the first time. That way you don't have to unteach and reteach.
Right. It's so much easier to teach it correctly the first time than to unteach it and unteach it and unteach it and unteach it.
But if you're teaching past the ocean, I mean, I would explain the definition quickly. Pass through, face your partner, step to a right hand wave. But then, I mean, would you actually recommend doing something like a sachet couple past the ocean, and what you're starting to teach them? I mean, they have enough trouble getting it with the standard application.
That's something that, in my opinion, that's something you as a caller have to judge your dancers by. Some dancers and some clubs are great learning half sachet, inside, outside, upside down, and backwards all at the same time. I personally believe that you should dance and teach the standard applications first, and then build on what they know, but don't do it when you're teaching it. Don't do it to the exclusion of everything. Don't label them into one box and this is the way it's done and use it only that way. You've got to leave yourself room. I see you waving your hand there, Betsy.
Yep, couple things. I truly believe that just like some callers have found the easy way out of teaching recycle as the girls turn back and wheel and deal, they will teach the girls take left hands and turn a quarter as the boys walk around. I truly believe it's been taught wrong. And when if I were going to vary past the ocean from totally standard, the first thing I would do would be to have only one couple half sashayed and the other couple standard, because at least then two of the people are where they normally are, and so they kind of provide a little bit of stabilization for the people who are going, where in the heck am I? You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering about that. I mean, I liked what Mel said about the motion, but I also like that idea too.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you could do what Mel says also, is once you've got one couple half sashayed, you have them pass through, face their partner, step to a wave. Notice you've got, whoever by their hand, same sex or whatever.
I want to add something on to what you said, but that's why I started, Betsy, that's why I started typing this out. I started with heads. I want to introduce past the ocean from a half sashayed couple or variants of past the ocean. So I've called heads first, and then I would get them out, and then I, back home, where I could say, instead of doing a quarter in there or do anything to get the heads back home, do the same thing to the sides. But if you look at the setup that I have here, this is what Betsy was saying. You've got one couple half sashayed, one couple not half sashayed. This is a very dangerous place to teach that. Okay, it's a box. If you are going to teach past the ocean, what you want to do is, touch a quarter, whatever.
That faces you, turn back.
Scoot back. And, you could have whatever.
That faces run.
Ignore the choreography here.
Yeah.
It's not what I wanted to call, but my fingers were going faster than my brain was. Okay.
I was going to say, you went the long way around to get there.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I know.
One hell of a long way to get there.
I know. I had a brain fart. But anyway, this is what I was saying.
Mel, just before you proceed, can I just address something that was said earlier?
Sure.
About how you teach it. And the problem is that the dancers, the space in the middle if you're doing it standard for the ladies going through and then they got to turn and then they got to step to a wave, you're arguing about microseconds, about where they touch hands and where they don't touch hands and all that sort of thing. And so it's inherent in the call that there's little space for the centre dancer to actually pass through, turn, and then step. It's all one motion to the dancer, and so they interpret it different the way we think it.
And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. If you're going to do that, this is what I actually wanted to do the first time. So if we look at that, I've got him here. I want to do Past the Ocean, but I don't want to do it from here because it's just confusing, because you end up in a tidal wave and it's not comfortable for the dancers. But I can call Pass Through, Face In. What's part of Past the Ocean? Pass through, face your partner.
Pass through, face in.
They've not face in, but face your partner.
Yeah.
So they've already got the flow for that. I would then call, forward and back and say, okay, we're going to look now at Past the Ocean. You're going to pass through, you're going to face your partner, you're going to step to a right-hand ocean wave. And you do that. And as Betsy said, you've got them heads working solo, great, they do it. Get them back home. Sides working solo, you've introduced it. Now you've done the variation, you've gone here, you've got boy, boy, girl, girl. You can set that up by pass through, face in. It's the exact same flow. As Daryl Clendenin said earlier, take something that you want to introduce that flow first so that it's familiar to them, and then you can build on it. It's not Past the Ocean. You've taught pass through and face in, but it's not courtesy turn. It's not right pull by, but you've already taught those. You build on that to make the right and left through. The same thing here, pass through, face in, step to a wave. Well, we've already done step to a wave. We've combined three things: pass through, face in, step to a wave. Known, known, known equals success. Taught right the first time equals success.
Thanks.
Part of the problem here in the States is that people teach, once they did the standard applications handbook, a lot of callers teach the standard applications. That's as much as they teach. That's as much as people can dance. So even if you teach it right to new people, the experienced people will fight it.
Yep.
They're unlearning it and they haven't practiced it.
The two comments that I've heard recently is, one was it's shame. I think the term was shaming. Callers are shaming advanced dancers and plus dancers from coming down to dance basic and mainstream. And it's really a sadness in that they're not actually shaming the dancers. The higher level dancers do not want to come down to basic and mainstream because some callers are starting to say, you know what, let's start using this program again. And they are having a hard time dancing it. And the other one was a comment, was from a European caller that says, we're told to start sight calling right away. And we use modules as filler. And it was constant. Since we started using modules and doing this, I've become a better sight caller because I now understand modules. And that's a very, very profound comment. I'm a better sight caller because I understand modules. Now, it's not exactly what I think he was trying to say, but it's the fact that I can sight call and recognize a box module. I can sight call, I can recognize it. I can set things up with sight call and do what I want and put my focus on the dancers, which is what eventually we're trying to get to.
I think, Mel, what it is when you're doing a module and your mind relaxes so you can actually see those formations and those, like the corner box, so that it's easier for you to sight resolve.
I also like Daryl. I'm stealing a lot of stuff from Daryl Clendenin today, but I like his expression. Working with this, there's a very big distinction between sight calling and sight resolution. Sight resolution is something to learn, and the way he puts it, sight resolution is dirt simple. It's easy to do from anywhere. Sight calling is difficult because it's about traffic flows and patterns and familiarity and smoothness and delivery. But sight resolution is actually pretty easy. And once you separate those two, it's a pretty good system to keep them separate.
Yeah. Sight resolution is a series of, depending on which one you choose, it's a formula.
Yep.
But you have to create the formations and arrangements that you need to apply the formula.
Right.
So anybody want to try and create a module for extended application choreography? Any of the new callers or anything? That's what it's all about. Don't everybody volunteer at once.
Well, I was just thinking of wheel around and reverse wheel around. If we're going to stick with the flutter wheel and reverse flutter wheel.
Okay. So if we wanted to do that, we want to use reverse wheel around and wheel around. That's going to be your focus. So we want to start with a module for a corner box. So let's set up a corner box. Okay. So what we need to do with wheel around or reverse wheel around, we need somebody either facing in the middle of outer space or lines facing out. A lot of times you'll get things like pass through, wheel around. It's very uncomfortable because it's hard for the center dancers to actually do that flow unless the square is breathed out already. So you don't want to call it cold. You want to make sure you've called something to establish that the square has expanded to give those center dancers room. So that was you, Terry? Well,
correct.
Let's come up with something. Where you're in a corner box, we want to come back to a corner box and we want to use a reverse wheel around in here somewhere.
Now you put me on the spot. I'm not awake good. So if you're trying to get out of this setup, you would slide through or star through. I guess
Okay.
we're sticking to basic or mainstream.
Yeah, basic and major. Slide through, we're in lines.
Correct. And from here you could pass through.
Pass through.
And reverse wheel around probably wouldn't flow that good, but you know, that I'm just, and part of it, I use it a lot with walk and dodge, which is on the mainstream program. So go back to
Actually, I think reverse wheel around flows quite nicely there.
It does okay, but I was thinking I was thinking that I couldn't use walk and dodge because we were sticking to the basic program.
No, that was just that example because that was an actual true story. That whole session was based around a true story. He's calling a basic program, so the whole choreography was set at basic.
Right. Yeah, and so and then from a right and left through, you can do a wheel around.
Hang on, we'll get to you here. Okay, slide through. Okay, so what did you want to do after the slide through?
You can do a right and left through. And a wheel around.
You want to do another wheel around?
Well,
Haven't done it yet.
yeah. That's just the flow. I know it's a little bit overflow, but I'm looking at body flow to get there. So, yeah. But go back to your corner box and I'll show you the formula, the module I use a lot. So touch a quarter. Do a walk and dodge. Reverse wheel around.
Reverse flutter wheel.
And that flows very good. Yeah.
Wait, you doing a reverse flutter wheel after that?
Well, you could do a reverse flutter wheel after that.
Well, you're making a module here, so you got to get back to that corner box.
Reverse wheel around, reverse flutter wheel, and then star through and you're back to your corner box.
You could have done a sweep a quarter after the reverse flutter, after the reverse wheel around.
Actually, after the reverse wheel around, yeah, you could have.
Well, there's your module. Corner box, touch a quarter, walk and dodge, reverse wheel around, reverse flutter wheel.
Star through and you're back to your corner box.
Great. So now we need a corner box resolution using a reverse wheel around. Who wants to play? Helen wants to play. You need to unmute, Helen.
And what I said was, I'm almost falling asleep here. It's 2:30 in the morning. What shall I do? Pass through, reverse wheel around.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very tight in the center.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't done my reverse wheel around yet. Was that just the pass through?
Yeah, you've done a pass through.
I've done a pass through. Okay.
How about just the outside reverse wheel around?
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. The outside reverse wheel around.
Oh, for God's sake.
But generally, it doesn't get more crowded if you call right, left, through, or reverse wheel around.
Not if you're establishing that, but if you're coming right off a pass through, it tends to get very crowded. A right and left through is an anticipated spread that happens with the dancers. Okay.
And half sachet.
Outside?
Yes. Followed by a zoom and bow to your partner.
I prefer the reverse half sachet.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Okay. And that is exactly what the whole process of doing these modules are. Because now when you look at it, that's your module. Okay, touch a quarter, walk and dodge, reverse wheel around, reverse flutter wheel. Yeah. Star through, now we're back in the corner box. Pass through, outside reverse wheel around, half sachet. Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? A terrible body flow.
But you can reverse.
No, I realize that. So now we do a reverse wheel around and reverse half sachet. Oops.
Oh, you did the whole wheel around for everybody.
Yeah, I just realized that. Outsides.
Watch it, Terry. It'll make you tight.
I know. I don't have terminations on this laptop, though.
There we go.
And for a novelty, once you do that half sachet and then zoom, you can do heads face your home.
Yep.
Or heads face back up your home.
Or you can even zoom that right to a right and left grand for that matter, if you time it right. Zoom, and when you meet your partner, right and left grand. No different than a cloverleaf to a right and left grand. When you look at things like this is one of the important things. Now, what you've done there is you've got to a corner box. You've done a corner box to a corner box module. You've done a corner box to a resolution module. You've interacted with dancers. You've moved them effectively around. You've already got 2 of your 6 modules done. And none of those modules is more than 5 movements. Nice, short, simple modules. You put them down on your card. You do a few more. You put them down on your card. And when you're done, you say, right, I'm going to set those aside. And then you say, I need a partner line module using a reverse wheel around, because that's what we're focused on. So, Paul.
Okay, so you could do heads lead right.
Hang on, Terry, you've already done one.
Oh, crap. I got a good one.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
from a static square.
Now we're in partner line.
Oh, you're trying to do it from a corner line.
Partner.
I was getting into a corner line
Well, we're there.
with flow. I know, but I was doing it with flow. And but from there, yeah, so heads lead right, veer left, reverse wheel around, and the couple circulate. So, and then bend the line and do a right and left through, and then you're back to that partner line. I was just using reverse wheel around to get into the partner line.
What was after that?
Couple circulate. And then you could bend the line and do a right and left through, and you're to that partner line.
Okay, so what we've got is a get in. Nothing
Right,
wrong.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with a get in module, and if this is your focus, by all means use them. Okay, so now we need a partner line to a partner line module. Who are we picking? I was picking, who is it? I don't know. Somebody chime in here. Paul. Paul from Vancouver. I think we've lost Paul. Can you hear me, Paul? No, maybe not. Bob. Bob Fur? Anybody? Nobody wants to play.
I lost my internet connection and had to reconnect. So what, are you still working on reverse wheel around?
We are. We've done corner box to corner box to resolve. We've got to get into a partner line. So we need a partner line to a partner line.
Partner line to a partner line.
Using reverse wheel around.
Using reverse wheel around.
Go ahead, Holly.
Well, I was thinking pass through and then wheel around, but
there's nothing wrong with using a wheel around, by all means.
Okay, I do pass through and wheel around. We're not worrying about sequence yet because they'd be out of sequence.
Yeah. What we want, all we want to do is get them back to that partner line.
Oh, okay. Using reverse wheel around. Okay. Let's see. No. I'm not good at this without